Welcome back, everybody, to the Filmmakers Roundtable, the podcast dedicated to films, filmmaking, and getting insight from filmmakers working in the industry. I'm Thomas.
I'm Dylan. You're never gonna know what hit 'em. Venom.
Another
Denim.
one bites the dust.
Doom.
Another one bites the dust.
Yes.
Small
preview.
We'll get to that. So, Dylan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Tom. I've finally... people have been hearing probably in earlier episodes that I was trying to find... I've just been trying to commit to a script idea, and I found it. This is one that's been... It's... just a little, not going to go into too much spoilers, but for those who remember a while ago, I posted on Twitter that I was going to be writing a script based on an urban legend or cryptid, or an urban legend cryptid creature. I found one. It's relatively in our backyard, and I told Tom all about it before we started. Mm-hmm. So that's all. That's what I'll tell you for now. I just got to get to writing.
Nice. So.
And just keep staying started.
Yes. Okay.
Yep, that's me. Besides side projects, I've been keeping myself busy.
Yep.
My girlfriend and I actually celebrated 2 years.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Love you, Amy.
Yes. So, okay.
How about you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well. I shaved my chin strap beard, so I didn't do that. I know it's No Shave November, but I didn't do it on purpose. I forgot to put the clip on my trimmer, so I was just like, well, all right, might as well do the rest. So it's weird. I haven't had just a chin since I was in like 5 years. So
it looks good on you.
Yeah, it looks better now that I'm thinner. So, but it's because it took forever to get the chin strap. So it took like a year, a couple years maybe. But anyway, I'm doing pretty well. Got a huge amount of work done on Awaken. Currently setting locations, gathering up, purchasing whatever gear I need. Don't need too much gear, so just a light and a couple of mounting stuff. So working on that, hoping to start shooting in the next few weeks. So
I'm ready when you are, my friend.
So I am so ready to do this. So.
You're pumped? Are you pumped?
I am pumped.
I'm pumped.
I am pumped.
I'm pumped. Damn it!
Yeah.
We have fun on this podcast, if you can't tell already.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into movie news. And as you've seen in the last few episodes, I've been putting in the reverb on SoundCloud.
Yeah.
All right. Tom.
I wish you'd told me that. I could have done it in the videos.
Oh, I thought I said in that episode that I was going to do it.
Well, I didn't know you were serious.
Well, you should always take me seriously.
That's a very difficult thing to do, though. So, okay. So, movie news. Avengers 4 coming out May 2019, right?
Yep.
May 2019 will reportedly be, ready, wait for it,
3 hours long.
Yes.
Who directed this? Peter Jackson?
Nah, it wouldn't be that good.
Nah. I would be interested to see Peter Jackson's take on a superhero. It'd be really long. We'd probably get the origin story, the versus match with his greatest villain, and then a team up with maybe some other superhero from that same universe, all in the same film.
And by about 500 endings. About, main characters doing their laundry. And eating shawarma.
Eating shawarma. Then something happens on the street. He goes, saves the day. Then there's another ending where he's taking a bath.
Yeah.
We love you, Peter Jackson, but
yeah. He apparently made a World War I documentary, and it's superb. So
really.
So I just looked him up because seriously, I'm curious as to what he's been up to the past years. A lot of producing. So. All right. Well, anyway, this is a different topic. We can talk about him on another day. But
you also had some Star Wars news for us.
Yes. Apparently, I came across this. I think last night they released this. Disney owned movies. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry.
That's a piece of news I have.
Sorry, I was looking over the script we have in front of us. So Disney is apparently making a live-action TV show prequel about Rogue One's own Cassian Andor. So, what do you think?
I'd be interested into seeing it. I mean, it's something a little fresh, maybe off the beaten path from just strictly going from episode to episode.
Yeah, I mean, maybe something to show like the little gray area of the Rebels, which is kind of what Rogue One dipped into. So,
yeah.
Personally, I would like to see something more about Chirrut. Anyway, so Donnie Young's character. So
you never know if this does well.
Yeah, because I think he would have been, he was the more interesting aspect of Rogue One. So, so I would have liked to, see something with him. So
that's why I kind of like some of these Star Wars stories movies that they were coming out until a lot of them got put on hold after Solo dropped.
Yeah.
It's why, because I'm kind of like, it's every now and then you want to watch something that's kind of off the beaten path. Okay, I just got done watching this episode. Got to go on to the next episode.
Yeah.
And why don't I just watch something in the meantime that takes place in the same universe, but I don't have to have seen the other one to know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't think there's much information about it. So, I'm assuming they're getting the original actor to come back. So.
Well, hopefully.
Diego Luna, that's his name. It took me a minute to think of him, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see, I guess.
Yeah. So, Dylan, what's our bit of news?
Well, Disney just debuted a free-to-download app and service for digital movies that is run by them called Movies Anywhere, and just
that's been around.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait.
It's the same. It's the same thing as like.
Oh,
Movies Anywhere. Like it's the same service as like Vudu and there's a few others. There's a couple others, but they're all interconnected with this. So
okay, then I'm misinformed on that part, but I'm not misinformed about this. According to Variety.com, this app has garnered over nearly 6 million users.
I'm one of them.
Who have added more than 150 million purchased movies to their collections.
Yeah,
that's kind of insane,
Yeah.
Because that also, to be sure, those numbers, which translate into more than 60 million hours in its first 12 months, are absolutely dwarfed by, say, this is an opinion piece from the article, from the person who wrote this article. According to them, these numbers are dwarfed by Netflix, which at the start of this year said it pumped out over 104 million hours of video every day.
Right.
So we're definitely getting into that streaming war that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. Yeah,
that is true. So it is kind of, James Rolfe, he's talked about this, it's like you got to keep up with all these other stuff to watch all this stuff, Hulu, Netflix, YouTube Red, then this and Amazon Prime. So, it'd be nice if it was all kind of connected, but, because of how things are, companies and competitions, legality stuff, it's, we may not see that for who knows, maybe another decade. So
Yeah, because it's got to be a competitive market. Oh, you want this show? It's on here. You can't get that over there.
yeah.
Why don't you check out the
like
rest of our stuff?
just one website. They can all kind of watch this come together. So I don't know. We'll probably never see something like that, at least not for a long time. So
I think there are a few websites like that exist in that kind of capacity, but they aren't legal.
Legal, yeah. Yeah, that's on.
Yo ho ho and a bottle of rum, my friend.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it would be nice to see something like that. But because like I don't know. Although I don't really have much incentive to watch the other stuff. I have Netflix, Hulu. I don't really watch TV, which that's primarily what Hulu is for. And then there's Amazon, which I have Amazon Prime, but still and I've watched a couple things on there, but I don't know. Still, I'm not.
Like ever since my folks cut down the satellite dish we used to have when we had dish TV.
Yeah.
We haven't gone back to anything else because thank Netflix and streaming services like that, we've made up for what we used to watch.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. And when you have like Chromecast, Apple, and Roku TVs and everything, I think that's kind of the new way because like people don't really watch like primarily what you got TV for back in the day, was for news. Back when there were 3 channels: CBS, NBC, and ABC. So. But nowadays, it's like there's so many freaking channels, it's oversaturated. So there's how many MTV channels are there?
I think there's only 2.
No.
I remember when that became a thing.
Oh, yeah, I remember MTV2. It was channel 34 at my place. It was 34? Yeah, 34. I remember Andy Milonakis.
Who?
Andy Milonakis. It was a very low budget like show they did on there. Imagine like YouTube in 2008, but with slightly better production value.
I'm picturing some things in my head.
Yeah. My cousin and I, we used to watch that show back in the day. So, but anyway, let me look it up. How many MTV channels there are?
Edit this part out, Dylan of the future.
And Thomas. How many MTV stations are there? There are. It depends on what you have.
Yes, because I remember Dish TV, they gave you MTV, and then when MTV2 became a thing in the 2000s, they gave you that, but that's all I remember.
Right.
I didn't watch a lot of MTV when I was a kid.
Neither did. Well, keep in mind, MTV is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's not musical television. Now it's just like
16 and pregnant.
Oh God. Although I've heard, but I don't know if this is true. It's kind of starting to go back to musical television. Don't quote me on that. I've just heard that, but I don't know. I'm trying to see how many of them are. Oh. Okay, there's no exact number that I can. Okay, but anyway, I can't remember because we had Comcast growing up, and I remember going to the really high 900 channels. You MTV 22 or something. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if there was anything on it, if anything. So yeah, it's yeah.
I just stuck to Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon. Those were my channels.
It was just Nickelodeon for me. And when Clone Wars came on, then I went to Cartoon Network.
Mm-hmm. Did you know that Cartoon Network once got an ad for their Cartoon Fridays to play on Nickelodeon?
I think I did know that.
Yep, orange background, several characters from Cartoon Network acting like they've got so little time to get this in before they get kicked out or something.
Interesting. Okay, so I think we've rambled on a bit enough.
Yes, the next piece of news we have is that actually Hotel Mumbai, starring Dev Patel, and films from Uday Singh Para. I'm gonna butcher these names. Sachin Kundalkar, and I'm not gonna try and even pronounce the rest of these names. I don't want to butcher these and offend anybody. Were among projects announced. Projects announced where? At Netflix's See What's Next Asia event, their first ever content showcase in the region of Asia, which concluded in Singapore. This little showcase announced that there will be several new shows and films aimed at telling stories from Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, and South Korea. And apparently India is getting its turn as well. And and according to Hollywood Reporter, Netflix has aggressively targeted India for growth, and the new projects will follow the critically acclaimed crime drama Sacred Games, upcoming cricket drama Selection Day, and the eagerly anticipated historical epic series. But I'm gonna butcher this. Bahunbaya, Before the Beginning, based on the hugely successful film franchise. I'm not familiar with that film franchise, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it seems, that's kind of interesting. We're getting a wide variety of content from around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, Netflix has that power to do that.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I just thought of. I think I showed this to you. This is a while ago, but it's an animated movie. It's called Aladdin, but nothing to do with Aladdin. An animation of food fight.
This sounds like something you would have showed me, but I'm drawing a blank, and I think that's for the better.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm looking on here, see if it's still on here. We'll cut this part out.
Yes. Tom and Dylan of the future, cut this out. Thanks, buddies.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to talk to yourself in the future when you're going to be editing this?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, actually it is, but...
Crazy. A medical term for interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's still on here. It's called Son of Aladdin. Yeah,
We'll watch. I'll need to watch that because I think this is something. What is this? What is that?
No,
What is that thing on the thumbnail?
I have no idea.
Okay, pass. Oh God. This is like the worst parts of Beast War.
It's food fight. Well, yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not a bad effect. Okay. No, this actually looks kind of better than Food Fight, honestly. At least this seems more coherent, even though I'm not hearing any audio.
Well, it's not actually playing. You're just seeing a preview.
Okay, yeah, okay. This seems like a step up above Food Fight, but that's not saying much.
Yeah. So...
At least nobody's walking around like this. You must be Leonard.
I understand! That has been a... whatever he said, from Brand X! I love Christopher Lloyd, but he will do anything for a paycheck.
God.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's like when you look at these projects and you're like, how did they get him? How did they get her? Oh God.
They showed him his bank statement.
You need to make money, sir. You've got to have money.
Okay.
Oh, I want to meet that man.
I do too. So
yeah, Netflix is branching out. We got one more piece of Netflix news, unless there's something you wanted to
add. He has Christopher Lloyd. Just to add on, he has 225 film credits. So he's not quite Nicolas Cage, but he's close.
Well, if we're moving on, we got...
Wait,
okay, go ahead.
Let me just do one more thing.
All right. Please tell me one of those credits is Food Fight 2.
No, this is for Nick Cage. He has... Okay, I know this is wrong. It says 97 film credits. Acting credits, but you know that's wrong. So...
Oh, have you ever seen...
Oh, wait. Well, he has self-credits, 163. But how do you distinguish that?
I don't know. This reminds me of that College Humor skit.
Oh, yeah.
Nicolas Cage's agent.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Films,
God. I need to watch that again.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that. It's hilarious.
You're a tasteless asshole! What? A tasteless
ass. A man with a black hole where his dick...
dick used to be. From the voice of your ass, from the director of Space Ass. No! Sorry, my dog was eating my shoelace. Oh. Whatever you just said, I'm in.
It's gonna be fruit filmed on Fruit of the Loom.
Yeah, fruit by the foot.
Fruit by the foot.
Okay, well now I looked on Google and it says 91 films he's been in.
It's still up there,
I guess, but still, that's really hard to believe because he just does not know the word no.
But he does know the word face.
Yes.
And
you don't say.
I love Face Off. If you haven't seen Face Off, go see that movie. John Travolta playing crazy Nicolas Cage and Nicolas Cage playing crazy John Travolta. It's just a match made in heaven, man.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
Last bit of news.
Yeah, all right. Last bit of news. It's from Netflix again, and just in time for the holiday season. Netflix has secret codes to unlock Christmas movies. So, according to NewJersey.com, Netflix has secret codes on their menus, on their official website, where you can unlock secret menus of movies that will fill you with holiday cheer.
Cool.
It seems kind of pointless when I say it out loud because, as the article later points out, that you can simply search for these movies and still find them.
Oh yeah, there are codes you can enter into like the URL to get all kinds of genres of movies, but again, you can just search for them.
Oh.
Yeah, well, just look them up, you know. There's tons of stuff on there.
Then this wasn't actually...
They're not like secret hidden away films.
That's what I
mean, they're probably buried by your, recommendations like Iron Pump or Iron Fist, the Schwarzenegger movie.
But hey, I'm surprised. Yeah. Last thing on Netflix, there needs to be a lot more. I know they have plenty of movies. It's just when I'm looking for something really specific, I end up not being able to find it.
Yeah.
But that's another issue that is entirely probably out of their hands as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that's been it for movie news. And I'm completing the Keemstar joke by actually having popcorn. I'm sorry.
All right, let's move on to our next topic. Movies we've seen. So, what do we see?
Buddy, we just saw a movie about Freddie Mercury. I just screwed this up. We will rock you. We saw the Queen Freddie Mercury biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody, named after one of their most famous songs and one of their longest songs.
Yes.
What did we think about it?
I loved it.
I loved it too.
Yes.
Now, like with any biopic about historical figure, event, musician, what have you, you're going to have a lot of things that aren't inaccurate. Things that were made for the movie.
Yes.
Things that were
omitted.
Yes, things that were omitted, changed around. But Tom and I were actually talking about this earlier because I actually did some research into the movie because I knew a basic outline of the Queen timeline and Freddie Mercury. A lot of the things that happened during their career, such and such, and a lot of stuff that the general public knows about as well.
Right.
But there were some of the finer details that I didn't know about that, according to what people listed, the film changed, omitted, or just completely ignored.
Right.
Yeah. But I would say, and I'm going to adopt this term from a YouTube channel, another YouTube channel called History Buzz, called Nick Hodges.
Right.
Really good YouTube show. He goes into a lot of historical movies. Just a free plug here. We're not sponsored by him. He's a really entertaining YouTuber. If you're a history buff and you like to know how your historical movies hold up to the real realms of history, go give him a watch.
Right.
But the term that I want to take from him is the historically authentic. It's not necessarily accurate, but the feeling is there. The idea of this event, this person, is still preserved despite the events that you're seeing not necessarily happening the way they did, in the order that they did, or in the time that they did.
Right.
And this can be extended to Bohemian Rhapsody, but I still love this movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So it has a critical score of 61%. So it's still fresh, you know. Well, it's not certified, but still. And it also, but audience 94%.
Good. Yeah, it's just, I think it's, like I said, any biopic you go into, you're going to inevitably come away from it thinking how much of that was real, how much was that fabricated or just changed around.
Right.
But I think the great thing a good biopic does is that it inspires you to do your own research.
Yeah.
Yeah. It tells you the idea, the feeling behind this person, with some accurate events, some non-accurate, some change around, etc., etc. We are harping on that a lot because that's the biggest thing that you find out when you do your own research. But the movie is still good, folks. It's just, it really inspires a lot of people to go look this stuff up for themselves. And then when they see where the film got it right, the movie's made all the better. And then but they're always it makes folks more involved and informed when they look up the actual events of history.
Yeah. So it's interesting because you're a music connoisseur.
Yeah,
so
I whole shelf of CDs over there.
Yeah, I like music. I like to listen to music. I don't listen to a lot of it, a great deal of it. So I didn't know anything about. I didn't even know that was their name, Queen. So I thought it was Bohemian Rhapsody, the title of the movie. I didn't know that was the title of the song.
You said that to me right in the theater, right before it started.
Yeah, so I you were just like Queen. I was like, oh, see, I didn't. So yeah, so I obviously I know their songs. You know, the song Bohemian Rhapsody and We Will Rock You. I remember back in the day, you know, on the school bus, that song would play just about every day. You know, and everybody would sing along, clap, and so it was
every football game, basketball game. They've got some anthems that will be blasted at sports games till eternity.
Yep.
It's like, I think the biggest thing that Bohemian Rhapsody accomplishes is just while they do delve a lot into Freddie Mercury's backstory and the tale of his life.
Yeah.
They do get down, like, the energy, the spirit of Queen. I think they get that because people absolutely adore this band. Years after Freddie Mercury's death, people still remember the songs, and it still leaves an impact. Like, oh man, I want to go into spoilers because there's one part in that movie, and I'm pretty sure you know what part I'm talking about, Tom.
Okay, spoilers, skip to here.
Yes. And I'll do a podcast correction.
Yeah.
The ending scene at Live Aid, it's like a mini concert in a film.
Yes.
It's like, it's just that it went on. It's like in any other movie, it would just be one sung. In any other musician, it would be one song to end the movie.
Or it would cut away and like it'd be like a distant echo. The other songs.
Yeah, but no, it's several Queen songs, like just a mini performance there at the last part of the movie before it goes to the credits, and
it was their last concert.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, that was one thing I found out. Live Aid actually wasn't their last concert. There was one concert after that was their last concert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that their last big concert?
Their last big one. It was a big coup de grace.
Because it was 100,000 people there.
Yeah,
so.
it was a big coup de grace. Freddie Mercury had a king's cape and a crown, and then they departed the stage one last time.
That last concert?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Live Aid was big. It was big for a lot of artists considering how televised it was, but there was the true final concert that they had, which was years after.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when their last album came out?
No, they actually produced several albums after that because how the film describes, and here's some more spoilers for you. Freddie Mercury actually was diagnosed with AIDS several years after Live Aid. They shifted the timeline a bit.
Oh, okay.
Because, he was diagnosed with AIDS several years after Live Aid, and I didn't know this.
Did he kind of highly suspect he had AIDS, or was he just officially diagnosed?
Officially diagnosed. For the officially diagnosed after Live Aid, I can't say whether if he knew he had suspicions of it, but the bandmates did. The bandmates had kind of.
Or was he or did he know he was ill or something?
That I'm not entirely sure of. I need to do a little bit more research on it, but I remember the interviews with the band saying that they kind of started to notice something before he came out and told them. He got diagnosed, and then he told them, like how we saw in the movie, just the timeline has shifted. That happened after Live Aid.
Which I guess in movie terms, that kind of does work.
Yeah. It kind of... Because I was reading up on this stuff, and someone really put it well. Someone really put this well. They shifted the timeline to use the last concert, to use the Live Aid at the end as a framing device.
Mm-hmm.
Everything all comes together, and it's how it's just the culmination of all these events into one grandiose performance, highly televised for the world to see.
Yeah,
and that's why I say it's historically authentic, because the feeling, the idea is preserved. Just not told in the right order as history is written.
Right.
But again, that last scene, that's why people love Queen. People get easily swept up into it. The moment you hear "We Will Rock You," everybody instinctively stomps their feet, claps their hands. Bohemian Rhapsody, everybody knows the song. Everybody knows the song from Wayne's World when the more rockin' section of the song comes in. They all want to be Mike Myers banging their head like this.
Yeah.
We get swept. Queen has an energy to them, which I feel is encapsulated in that last few minutes of the movie with just several songs. It's a pre-recorded concert, but the energy was there, and I love that.
Right.
Sorry for spurging out there, but it's that ending scene. Several songs where any other movie would have one song that was like the biggest hit of their career that really symbolizes something in that time. But we got several, and I love that.
Yes. So, are we done with spoilers?
Yes, we're done with spoilers.
Okay, so spoilers are done. Okay.
Yeah, right here. Wow. Well, weren't them some hefty spoilers?
Yep.
I didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
Oh, now you just spoiled for people who didn't see.
Who hasn't seen Empire Strikes Back?
I know people. We know people who haven't seen or hate Back to the Future.
Yep. I know a few people. But hey, to each their own, you know?
Yeah. But it's debatable as to whether or not they've actually, seen that, so.
Yeah.
But Queen, what can you say, so.
Amazing.
Yeah. So,
just like the band themselves.
So.
We are the champions, my friends. I don't have a lighter, so I'm gonna turn on my phone flashlight. We are the champions. We are the champions. I know I'm not Freddie Mercury. We ain't the champions. God, I just did a disservice to that man's voice, his vocal talents.
It's all right. Sorry, it makes you feel better. At choir competitions, they would use their phones all the time because they didn't have lighters because you couldn't bring them into school. Obviously.
Exactly.
So, but anyway.
But enough about that. Let's move on. Well, there's never enough about Queen, but we must move on for the sake of time.
I didn't see any other. I did get The Incredibles on Blu-ray and The Last Jedi for a couple of projects, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
So
yeah, now we're gonna move on to Venom. Never gonna know what hit him. Venom. Yeah, I can't rap like Eminem.
Nope.
Apparently, yeah. People probably already know this because his Kamikaze album came out of nowhere. He did the title track to the soundtrack of Venom, which I saw this week.
And
it feels like it was supposed to be an R-rated movie. The visual, everything all the content that I was being shown, it felt like this feels like it wants to be an R-rated movie, but it's kind of towing the line between PG-13 and R. Like, there was some stuff that happened here, like, I could see this in an R-rated movie.
Right.
Like, maybe pushed a bit more, maybe slightly more gory and brutal. Like, it was just, like, a couple steps away from being rated R. But I liked Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock. I loved him.
He's better than Topher Grace.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And from what knowledge I have of the original Eddie Brock from the comics, the setup is a bit different from the original Eddie Brock from the comics. But I was still invested. I liked Venom. I liked the little dynamic they gave him and Eddie.
Right.
It's again slightly. It's given that Eddie is portrayed differently in this movie, the dynamic is slightly shifted, but it's still overly the same. A symbiote attached to a living host, and they have a symbiotic relationship.
Right.
And again, like any superhero film, a lot of CGI, but I think it worked in here because Venom has a very dark color scheme. I think it was able to work a lot more, kind of like, and a lot of the effects were at night. This is no spoilers. This is just general talking about the film.
Right.
Like how Pirates of the Caribbean, they were able to hide a lot of the effects shortcings by setting those effects against a very dark backdrop.
Yeah, and they did something similar in Game of Thrones. So
I love films that can do that. Like I know this is not there, but it feels like it's a part of the frame.
Right.
And the one critique I would have about the film is that it seems patchy in some points. Like there's a director's cut coming later that's going to fill in the gaps that the theatrical cut didn't have. So I'm getting the feel.
Yeah, and Tom Hardy said, his favorite scenes were all scenes that got cut.
Really?
Yeah. So.
Well, I'm going to get the director's cut because.
Do you think it'll be R? I mean, do they rate? Are director's cuts rated?
I'm not entirely.
I think they are, because even though they go to just to DVD or Blu-ray, I think they are. So.
Well, they do have unrated cuts, so I mean, that's not a far stretch.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. So I'm probably not gonna. I might wait. I'll wait till all that stuff comes out. So.
It was interesting, but yeah, It was a superhero movie. I did enjoy it. I felt like my time wasn't wasted. I felt like I had a really good time, and I got my money's worth.
Oh, that's good. So,
yeah. And I got to. I don't know what I felt at I won't spoil this part, but there was a lot of there wasn't commotion on Twitter, but there was a lot of buzz on Twitter about a particular scene in this movie. I won't go into it, but if you
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, you probably do, because I think I told you about it.
Right.
Because I got spoiled by it because someone took a picture in the theater. Yeah. But that's it. If you want to see Venom on the big screen, go. If you were sorely disappointed by Spider-Man 3 with Venom, go see Venom in the big screen.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess since nothing else, let's move on to our discussion portion. Which based on true story / inspired by true events, movies based on this stuff. So,
this is a lot. This isn't strictly this can extend to biopics.
Yes.
About events.
War pics.
Yes, exactly. Like, this can extend to that, but when we talk about based on a true story, inspired by true events, we're talking about the films that work that into their advertising or their posters. The ones like your Conjurings, like your Conjuring, your Annabelles.
Argo.
Mm-hmm. It's like, we're definitely seeing a lot of those movies nowadays.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to think of the jumping point for this. I think that. What are you thinking? I'm trying to find a train of thought here.
I'm pulling up some movies. 300. It says here the film tells the true story of the Spartan king Leonidas and his 300 men who fought the Persians at the Battle of Thermopylae. I butchered that. Mm-hmm. Which took place between Greece and Persia, modern day Iran. So
that battle happened, but it was turned into propaganda, which then turned into a graphic novel,
right?
Which then turned into the movie directed by Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
That's where you have to really. Okay, here's the thing I was coming at. Based on a true story or true events, a lot of people confuse that with this happened in time. Well, not everybody, but there's the general impression that based on true events is based on a true story or inspired by true events. But they look at that true word and that sticks in their head like, wait, this is all real?
But they almost have to underline and capitalize based.
Yeah, like the devil is in the details.
Yeah.
Like, aww. Be right back, folks. Aww, what's wrong? A little cold? Yeah, my cat is in here now, but back to what I was talking about. Like you said, we almost have to underline based on, inspired by, because like you have to have the hope with the director that with the inspiration and being based on true events and based on true events, true stories. You have to understand that not everything you're going to see is 100% accurate.
Right.
But depending on how well the film is put together, you can get the fact that you can feel the director is truly inspired. They want to tell this story. Even if it's not the whole story, it gets the idea of the original across.
Right. I guess like we can kind of go off that like Full Metal Jacket.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even though there's nothing really it's not really based on any specific events. It's kind of like a time period that was set in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Although there are some names like Joker's real name, I can't remember what it was, but his real name is apparently the name of the first American casualty in Vietnam. So obviously he's not playing the actual person, but it's just the name. So,
or kind of like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah,
it is not. It's actually based on. It's based on several historical accounts.
Mm-hmm.
But in itself, the only thing that's historically accurate about that movie, outside of being based on historical accounts, was the invasion of Normandy scene. That is the most historical accurate part of that scene.
Yeah. Outside
of the nitty-gritty military details. The U.S. never actually had an operation where they had to recover somebody behind enemy lines. But there was
a Private Ryan.
There was a Private Ryan, but
his three brothers died before him.
Oh no, that wasn't actually the case.
Really?
It's actually based off. Actually based off the tragedy that instilled that policy, where three brothers died. The last surviving brother gets to be sent home.
Okay.
There were a couple of famous military brothers. Unfortunately I can't recall their names right now, but they were on the same ship that got torpedoed and they all died. And they were the only kids of that family at the time. The U.S. was horrified when they saw that because they were highly publicized in the news. And when this news came out, they were horrified. So they instilled that policy.
Yeah, I remember in high school we did a presentation on it, and I think it was like when they landed in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Eisenhower, led that assault. So, yeah.
And now there are some accounts of this policy being enacted where they tried to bring some of these guys home.
Right.
As it turns out, there were 3 brothers, from what I can remember. A lot of my information is coming from sources and history, and Nick Hodges at History Buffs, who actually does a better detailing of this story than I am right now. So you're going to kind of get the bullet points version. There were 3 brothers, and there were 3 brothers in World War II. They were on the European front after the invasion of Normandy.
Right.
A couple of them were parachutes. One of them was thought to have been killed, but later they found out he had actually survived. The other one was outright killed. His death was confirmed, and there was one last brother. So they brought him home, but the other brother that they thought was dead managed to come home. That's a rough bullet points of that historical account that Saving Private Ryan is based on. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's where historically authenticity comes from. Nick Hodges likes to hit on that word a lot, because a lot of these movies, especially based on a true story inspired by true events, fall under that category. They're not necessarily 100% accurate, but they stay true to history in some fashion.
Yeah. And then
they don't disrespect by saying something outrageous happened.
Right.
But it fits. It fits into historical context.
There's other films like Schindler's List.
Mm-hmm.
Also directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yep, Liam Neeson.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Although he's Irish but playing a German. So
I thought he did a good job.
Oh yeah, that's a career of a lifetime. So
that is a depressing movie.
Yeah. Oh. Don't watch that if you're having thoughts.
Yeah, it is not a happy movie.
No, yeah. There's a little less depressing, The Social Network.
Mm-hmm. The Blind Side. About the football player?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yep, we got it right here.
That actually falls under what we're talking about.
Yeah. Remember the Titans?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of these based on true stories and inspired by true events, or any biopic can be talked about. Like especially The Blind Side. There were a lot of changes in that movie that I later found out about. Actually, the man who the football player in question actually came out and spoke out about a lot of the changes that they had made.
Right.
Especially in service of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the movie they teach him how to play football, but he already knew how to play football.
Right.
So he pointed out how that was weird.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's other films, Aviator.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah. Pearl Harbor. Great invasion scene.
Yeah.
Bombing scene, but
I'll take Tora Tora over Pearl Harbor any day.
I haven't seen them.
Tora Tora. It's a lot longer. It's a lot slower, but I feel like it's a superior film.
It reminds me of the Mel Gibson Patriot. Oh, yeah, that's a long.
And Patriot.
Yeah, and there's a Patch Adams. The Miracle.
The Miracle?
I don't know what it's about. I'm just looking at a list here. Hitchcock, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn. My Week with Marilyn.
Oh, okay. Marilyn Monroe.
Saving Mr. Banks.
That is a good film.
Yeah.
But there are some significant changes they made.
The Wolf of Wall Street. That's a great movie. I love that.
I have not seen that actually.
It's really funny. The 2 Steve Jobs movies.
Oh yeah, the one where they had Seth Rogen play Wozniak.
Which was that the one with Kutcher?
No, that was not.
That was with Fassbender.
Yes, I believe that was.
Gandhi.
I remember watching that in class.
Me too. Ben Kingsley. Lincoln.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's like Daniel Day-Lewis always like Sean Penn. Like he's that actor that dies in nearly everything.
Sean Bean.
Oh, Sean Bean. I'm sorry, Sean Bean.
Sean Penn's different guy.
Oh, God damn. I conflate. I'm confusing the guys' faces.
Right.
But Sean Bean, actor who nearly dies in everything that he's in.
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis the same. So he takes on the role as Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah. Goodfellas. Great movie. That's one of my favorite films of all time. I love it.
Ooh, man. The story behind that, the actual guy.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Malcolm X.
I've never seen that.
It's 92. Balto.
Oh, the story behind that movie. I'm laughing at the fact that Phil Collins plays two polar bears in that movie. I love Phil Collins, but I would have loved to have seen him in more animated stuff. But two polar bears, I'd have to sit.
Don't tell that to Doug Walker. Okay,
Balto, I do admire the director behind that movie because all accounts of that man. Obviously, the movie got kind of caught up in trying to compete with Disney, so there are a lot of Disney-fied elements to the story.
Right.
But if you read up on it, the director of that movie, he really loved the story of Balto, and he really wanted to do the story justice.
Right. So
he had a lot of passion.
Right. The Perfect Storm. It's with Mark Wahlberg and it's a couple others. George Clooney. So, Ali. So, the boxer.
Oh, Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. The Pianist with Adrian Brody. The Holocaust movie.
I've never seen that.
Yeah. Black Hawk Down.
I've seen that.
Ewan McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a lot of these. There's a movie called Cinderella Man. I guess it looks from the poster. It looks like a boxing movie.
Huh.
Jarhead with Gyllenhaal and Jamie Foxx. I feel bad. That could have been like a new Full Metal Jacket, but
Jarhead.
Not as well written. The Pursuit of Happiness.
Mm-hmm. Will Smith.
There's a film made called United 93. Statue of Liberty, Twin Towers, 93. Flight 93.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a couple of 9/11 films on here.
I think the biggest thing.
I don't think any of these films are. There's a plane going.
Yeah,
by.
we live by a military base.
Yeah. Although the United 93 has a 91%, so. The website I'm looking at has like the tomato score.
Mm-hmm.
There's others.
The biggest thing I think a lot of biopics in these based on true story and inspired by true events, you have to have a great amount of respect towards what you're trying to portray, and you also have to
Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List, Argo. But if you don't, you get Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
Let me see. What are some bad films based?
Pearl Harbor.
Well, yeah, that on true.
And I would argue that Titanic, while not
not horrible.
No, I wouldn't say that Titanic is bad. But as a historical accurate movie,
it's like that one guy. He was pointing the gun at the civilians as they were trying to get off. That was a real guy, but he was a hero, and he died on the Titanic. So, and in the movie he committed suicide and fell off the boat, which they apparently had to go to the village he was from and apologize to them. So
yeah, it's not a bad movie, but it's not a movie you go for historical accuracy.
It's way too long.
I remember as a kid I had the 2-box VHS set because when that was on VHS, it was put onto 2 different tapes. I would always watch the second tape when the ship started to sink.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, that was the exciting part.
Yeah. I'm trying to see what's some bad movies based on.
But I will say Titanic does what Pearl Harbor tried to do.
Yeah.
integrate
But
fictional characters in with the real historical figures.
yeah.
Yeah, like at least in Titanic, the characters were interacting with the actual people who were there. It makes them feel a part of the situation. Whereas with Pearl Harbor, they were several miles away in a car firing shotguns at the plane.
Yeah. Okay, here are some 7 movies based on a true story that are complete bullshit. Cracked.com.
Ooh.
Okay, this one says The Pursuit of Happiness. Which I like that. So, I mean...
I think that...
There are some...
Okay, go ahead.
It says, in reality, Gardner did get a chance to show his stuff in the Dean Ryder training program, though we're sad to report his acceptance had nothing to do with solving the colorful puzzle game, the Rubik's Cube. But as the more honest book version points out, he apparently wasn't quite the father in the film he was made out to be. So, first, he was so focused on job and earning his first million that he actually didn't even know where the hell his son was for the first 4 months of the program. Okay, alright, that's a few liberties.
Yeah, a lot of these films live or die based on the actual accounts.
Yeah.
By the actual people who live this.
21 with the racist Mickey York.
21? What?
Yeah.
I never heard of this.
Here, let me show you. You've seen that. You've seen that.
I've never seen Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Okay, well. Moving on. Lean on Me, which is joke. Okay, I've never heard of this movie. Okay, moving on. Yeah, half of these movies I've never heard of. Okay, Victory, or Escape to Victory. There's a photo with a German soldier, Nazi, a canine, swastika flags in the back, and a soccer team. So... okay. During World War II, a group of Allied prisoners that included the unlikely trio of Paley, Michael Caine, and Sly Stallone, who's between Rocky II and First Blood, spent their time in a Nazi prison camp playing soccer. The Nazis, being the clever bastards they were, they came up with a can't-miss propaganda extravaganza in which a team of their best and brightest would take on this Allied side, clearly having never heard of Pele. Continue reading below. The Allied team accepts, hoping to use the match as a means of escape. However, once they get their perfect opportunity to escape during halftime, they choose to instead return to the pitch and try to beat the Nazis, thus winning respect. Rather than their freedom, it should be noted that they were relying on Stallone as their keeper. As after a miraculous save by, you guessed it, Stallone, there was much rejoicing, and the Allies escaped during the ensuing chaos. In reality, well, for one, there was no Allied team. That means no random Brazilian like Pele. That means no cheeky Brit like Kane. So I it's a complete work of fantasy from what I'm getting. So
yeah, I think the biggest point to come away from this is that
or one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Good Morning Vietnam. Robin Williams.
Good
morning Vietnam. So yeah, okay.
How does that hold up?
The movie?
According to this page, since this is on a list of worst.
Well, it doesn't say worst. It just says that are complete bullshit. So,
okay.
Like the history, Vietnam, it would seem, was not a good time. With all the crazy flashbacks, Forrest Gump getting shot in the ass while Willem Dafoe strikes a Jesus pose, and the ridiculous amount of protest that inspired. How could a regular man or woman make it through without blowing their fucking brains out? Adrian Croner, that's now a radio disc jockey from Detroit. Korn basically told authority to strike. Okay. Corner, portrayed in the movie, is a staunch anti-war liberal. Half of his ratings have to do with how ridiculous the establishment is, or why army fashion is really awful, he told the army to stick it repeatedly and get with great emphasis. And for his troubles, he was sent off, hopefully to be killed by a commanding officer, and then had his ass booted out of the army. In reality, well, army fashion sense notwithstanding, everything else we've mentioned is pretty much fabricated. We hate to break it to you, this is what they said, but it turns out that, shockingly, Adrian Corner's story was completely retooled in order to fit the manic and pre-family friendly comedy stylings of Robin Williams. Well, that kind of sounds familiar. In reality, while Corner did indeed play some sweet tunes, he rarely resorted to flat-out comedy bits. In fact, stated that pretty much everything Robin Williams did in the film would have gotten his ass court-martialed. He was never booted from the military either. Sorry. No, he had a far more controversial exit. He went home when his tour was over. Okay.
Dang, that's seen as one of.
Okay. I haven't seen the film in a long time, so what do you think?
I feel like I think it's a big case of different. It can be. It's a big, complicated situation.
Yeah.
You are dealing with a lot of people's different strokes for different folks.
Right.
But when you get these biopics, these based on true stories, especially these based on true story inspired by true events movies, the director and the people making this movie have to have a lot of respect towards the subject matter that they're tackling.
Right.
Because that can sometimes even save the fabricated bits.
Right.
The inaccuracies. Mm-hmm. Because they did this to tell this story.
Right.
Like with Bohemian Rhapsody, sure, they changed a lot of the timeline around, but it served the idea of showcasing who Freddie Mercury was and what Queen was to the world.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think we kind of made our point. This is going on a bit long. So yeah. All right. So actually, do you mind if we take a break? Because I gotta piss.
Okay, taking a break. Holy.
And we're back.
Wait, is it recording? Yeah, we're back. We're back, everybody.
Cool.
Like the dinosaurs.
Roll back the clock to the dawn of time.
I love that song. I love that movie as a kid.
Yeah. What? No! You're raping Spider-Man! You leave that American icon alone!
That's comedy!
Okay.
Let's move on, shall we? Our last piece of discussion for this episode today.
Script writing.
It can't come at a better time because I'm committing to that right now.
Yup.
What makes a script?
Yes.
It's got characters. It's got dialogue. It's got shots. It's got settings. It's got times a day that this scene takes place in.
Yeah.
But what makes a good script? What should you do when you write your script?
Yes.
Well, first off, look at other scripts.
Yes.
The script for Alien is actually publicly available, and you can take a look at that.
Yeah, lots of scripts are publicly available.
Mm-hmm. Look it up. Is your favorite film publicly available in script form?
Probably.
Read it.
Actually, I have a little funny story about that. I was doing some research. I was doing some research on color film.
Mm-hmm.
And they say Wizard of Oz was the first film in color. It's not true. So, but actually, when I was in 8th grade, we went to Washington D.C. trip.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of the Smithsonian's, I can't remember. We went to a few of them. There's a little Wizard of Oz page in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's exhibit in there. It's got Dorothy's shoes. It's kept in low light because bright light deteriorates. But actually, there's a little page. There's some pages of the screenplay, the original screenplay back then, in the Smithsonian. So,
Really?
Yeah. So, but in the script, this is kind of off topic, but her shoes were silver. But because they were highly utilizing the Technicolor,
They wanted to show it off.
yeah, and they had to blast the whole set with light and everything, because they were using, because the cameras back then, they were really big, really loud, and they were running several film reels at a time. And they just had to blast the entire set with light. So, and it reportedly got to like 100 degrees in the studio. So,
imagine imagine the actors in the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and and the Lion. Imagine being in all that makeup and all that costume in that kind of environment.
Also, one more tidbit about Wizard of Oz: the shot where Dorothy opens the door and it's sepia tone and it goes to the color, all practical.
Yep.
All in
Actually, that whole scene was filmed in Technicolor, even the sepia tone bit.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. They colored that specifically with Technicolor.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it was just a body double who opened the door, and what was her name?
Judy Garland.
Yes, Judy Garland. I totally blanked on that. Judy Garland walked out. So.
Hey. Back then, you had to be practical.
Yep.
Otherwise, you couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could have, rotoscoped, but they didn't.
Yeah. It's amazing. That film, not entirely accurate to the book it was based on, but it's still one of the greats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, let's get back to what we were.
We were talking about film scripts.
Yep. Screenwriting. So.
Yes.
Now we kind of have different techniques.
Mm-hmm.
I use multiple different screenwriting software. You just kind of write them out in Word. So.
I used to use the screenwriting, but I've kind of adopted the formatting. Like I try to keep my formatting consistent with what I've been taught in the film club and what Adobe Story I did for me. Like how their formatting was there, I try to emulate that in Word because for some reason I no longer have access to that.
How come?
I don't know. My computer just never would load that site.
It's probably because you had to run Flash. Because whenever I go to Starbucks and I try to upload it here, I have to run it tell it to run several times before I can get the page to load. So, but anyway. I've used Adobe Story for years. They actually have a desktop version you can download and install. So with all the scripts, so I've been using that, and I think that's honestly the best software you can use to get for free. I mean, they have the pro stuff you can use, which is nice, but still for the best free screenwriting software, I think that's honestly the best. But unfortunately, they're discontinuing it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's come on, Adobe. I love Adobe. I love their products. I don't want to use any. That's what I've been using to edit for the past over
7 years.
7 years, almost 8 years. I've been using that since high school, since freshman year. And I don't want to use any other program. That they are the best. So, in my mind, but. It's come on, you got rid of Encore, which made DVD menus. I mean, there are still ways to get it, like if you download CS6, but it's come on, that was the shit.
That made life easier.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't make life easier, but it means it meant that we had the means to do something.
Yeah, and what other software can you make DVD menus? But that's another topic for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably make a whole episode about software. So
definitely.
Yeah.
But writing scripts.
Yeah, and but there were other stuff.
Okay.
I was.
Go ahead.
I think before I used Adobe Story, I used a program called Celtex, which I used that for a while. But they've changed their whole format, and I'm just their whole format and everything. And now the layout is oh, this is terrible. So. But lately I've been using a program called, an unregistered version of a program called Fade In. So, which apparently is the same script that Ryan Johnson used to write episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Okay.
So
I'll have to look into this.
yeah, it's pretty nice. I've been using that for Awaken and everything. So, but yeah, still, it's like, but for my money, I didn't really spend any money. But for my point of view, Adobe Story was and is the best. So, if I had a little bit more to spend, I would probably get something like Final Draft, which I've heard is pretty good. But I don't know.
Hey, if you got Word, you can use that as well. You just gotta know how to.
I just like, I don't know.
It saves time.
I get it, but I just prefer the actual good stuff. So.
Gotcha. So, how does one write a script?
Yeah.
Well, first, you gotta have an idea.
Yeah.
And then, the scripting part is where you start putting that idea down, where you can start fixing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we'll have a couple of lists of screenwriting software.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave some of them in the description.
I'll find a link to the Alien script.
Yeah.
To give you guys an example.
Yeah. But I actually did an episode of both tutorials back a number of years ago, about 5 years ago, about screenwriting. So, talk about Adobe Story, talk about Celltext back when it was good.
We'll link you guys to that.
Yes. So, I guess with the basics, you got to start with the location.
Yes.
Interior, exterior, both.
What time of day?
Yes. What location it's in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's not much to say about there. So you gotta establish all that. So.
And then there's the action.
Yes.
The action parts of the script.
Yeah.
You do not, and I learned this the hard way, so this is coming from experience when I say this, you do not need to write out everything.
Oh, well, I have. Quite a lot. And I've read the script to Kill Bill. Quentin Tarantino, like that script, like that just goes on and on and on for that action scene. The one-shot action scene. For a lot of the action scenes, it just goes on. I was just like, wow, okay. So
in my experience,
but
yeah, go ahead.
But my point with that is like you can. I mean, it's different for like if it's like an action scene, so. But if it's action like just someone doing something, it's just like okay, opens the cupboard, gets out a jar of peanut butter, and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
makes himself a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But if it's like highly detailed action scene. With fighting everything, that's a little different.
Yeah, like you don't have to write out. He placed his foot down, stepped forward, nothing like that. Because I remember writing a script like that, and I felt embarrassed to read it out.
You did?
Yeah, I not. It's a bit hyperbolic when I say writes out, takes a step, goes forward, takes a step, goes forward. It's just a hyperbolic exaggeration that for my point. I wrote a script that didn't do that, but it was extremely detailed to the point of absurdity. When I started reading it out, I got embarrassed, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. Right. Like, I'm reading this out, this doesn't feel right.
Right. So I kind of have a problem.
Yeah?
Where it's like, because I'm someone where it's just like, I need, like, all kinds of, like, detail. I need things, like, explained to me, like, like, I go, like, why didn't you tell me that? For like real life stuff, like, oh, why didn't you tell me that? That would have been kind of important to know, that kind of stuff. So I often kind of, when I explain stuff to people, no one has really told me they over explain, but I kind of tried to give, like, even as a director, I try to give the most detail that I possibly can, and I often do that in the scripts I write. Okay. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you have to tailor make it for what you're writing. What kind of movie you're writing? What kind of movie you're writing is going to affect how much you write. Yeah. And these little action bits that don't include dialogue, just character actions, etc., etc. A little tidbit I found when I was writing a few scripts. What I'll do is, this is something I've started doing, is I'll just put in parentheses. This isn't an official part of script format writing, but this is just something I do for myself. Right. I'll put down a suggested shot type. like in parentheses before a certain character action or something.
I do that sometimes, like in the action part, I put it in parentheses.
Yeah.
But there's like the parentheticals, which is like kind of like how, like in dialogue, how they want it to be delivered.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if they're like out of breath, or stuff like that.
You need to put enough into the script that your actors are going to know what you want to do. They're not going to completely get your vision from the script alone. That's where you do a lot. That's where you as a director come in. But if someone were to read your script, they need to get what you're trying to say. Mm-hmm. Maybe not entirely as you originally thought of it, but they get it. They understand where you're wanting to go. They know what you're asking of them.
True.
Mm-hmm. Now that's all. Now nothing on there is entirely. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't be eating popcorn because I don't know. I just burped. But you treat your script as the guiding rod.
Yes.
When you finally finalize it and you start filming it.
And that's another saying that I've heard around. I can't remember who said it, but the script is not a Bible.
No.
Or not the Bible. It's the blueprint.
Yes.
So.
Because things can change the day that you go and film something.
They change all the time. Actors don't show up, or you think something might be different, or could be better.
Mm-hmm. Like let's say you have a dialogue section where a character is out of breath, but then your actor does something that catches your eye and like, I like that, I want that, do that.
Yeah.
So, like any skill in filmmaking is not important over the rest.
Right.
Scripting can only be so good where you have to pick up the rest as a director who works with your actors and your crew.
And especially for someone like me, as a writer director, I put often like what a director would say to the actor in the script, like how I want it delivered, like they're sad or whatever, mm-hmm. and like a decent copious amount of detail.
Yeah.
If you've read some of my scripts.
Yes, I have.
So you kind of see that there.
I do see that.
So, yeah. If you have something to bounce off.
Oh, I will have some. I don't have something to bounce off specifically.
Not that, but what were you gonna say?
Well, what I was gonna say is when I was doing a film club in college,
mm-hmm.
I actually got some industry advice. I'll have to fish out my notes for this. But my professor, Dr. Steve Cohen, I love this man. He taught me a lot when I was going there at UIndy. Taught me a lot my last year of college. During the film club, he gave us a whole bunch of pamphlets on the hero's journey, etc. He really was all about this. Right. He was really all about this lifestyle, as people would put it. There has to be, in the industry, there has to be a certain point in your script where people will either take it or kick it out the door.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You have to reach. There's a point in your story that you have to reach within so many pages.
Yeah.
You have to satisfy this checklist, and people are looking for things. If you don't, if that moment that people are going to take your script is 50 pages into your script, no one's going to take it.
Right. So that kind of ties into something I heard. The Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the South Park guys.
Okay.
They said something that they said that something to the effect of, I can't remember what they exactly said, but if your script has but or has and then or then it's boring, and so they often do like but and therefore, so to make it more interesting.
Okay.
And if you may have noticed that. If you've read Awaken scripts, then I often then that's what I tried to implement here.
I do remember a few instances of that.
Yeah, so I was like, but they did this, and therefore, and that, keeps the audience going. I wanted to ask you if some of the other scripts I've written, did that kind of keep you more invested, or?
Well, naturally, since I'm a film guy, I'm always wanting to. I want to look through this stuff. Of course, but I think. With Awakened, I noticed that a bit more. Did
it kind of help, or did it kind of make it worse?
No, I think it kind of helped because, like a lot of people, if I were to become a guy who reads scripts for a living to shoot out to studios, it's kind of nice to see a change. Like and then wait, but this is interesting. So it's at least something new.
Okay.
Because they're just because you want your script to stand out.
Yeah.
As Dr. Steve Cohen told me, you want it to stand out because you only have so many pages before they just shut it and send it out the door.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that helps that I got that is sort of being effective. So
now, question: how do you write dialogue? What's your way about writing dialogue?
Dialogue, like, let me pull up one of my scripts if I have any of mine on Google Drive. Okay, here's a oldie, nothing personal. So that's that takes you back.
Takes you back.
Okay, so this was from 2014. So a lot of this dialogue is very not good. Very not good. So
very not good.
So I'm afraid it's very not good. It's just not very good. So okay. All right. So let me see if I can find a newer script. Actually.
Well, while you're trying to find that, while you're trying to find that, I'll talk. So there's just not the silence.
Go ahead.
When I tried to, I've adopted the mantra of acting out scenes and going with my gut when I write dialogue. I try to put myself in the mindset of these characters. Okay, this character A just said this to character B. What would character B say? And this ties into knowing your characters really well. What would character B say if character A said this to them?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it also goes into character actions as well. What would they do in this instance? It's sometimes going with your gut.
Right.
It's like, what do I feel in the moment? What do I feel in the moment? What would I say if you're kind of basing a character off interactions that you've had?
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes going with your gut and just acting it out. Does this sound natural? Does this fit what I'm doing?
Yeah. So I'm looking at this might be. Yeah, this is an earlier draft of Awaken, but it's pretty much the same. So dialogue is very tricky with me because I don't pretend to be the very best at it.
Well, I'm not the best either
because I'm not very good at communicating with people. So often I try to put not as much dialogue. Actually, I just thought of this. The one scene, I don't want to give anything away, but the one scene that we tested about a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So I should just give me kind of feedback on that,
Feedback on that scene?
Yeah.
I felt it was very conversational.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a couple of my friends having that conversation in an actual car.
Yeah.
Now, I think, going back to what I said, all aspects of filmmaking play into each other.
Right.
And as you said, scripts are the blueprint for a film, not the Bible.
Right.
You always have to keep in the back of your mind. Well, you always keep this in the back of your mind. Things are going to change. Actors aren't going to show up. But you always have to walk that tightrope of, okay, this is exactly what I want to say. This is exactly how I want to say it. What's the actor going to say when you actually hear it spoken by the actor? How's that going to change it around?
Or what is the actor going to say, but what are you going to hear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're like Quentin Tarantino, where it's just you have to do exactly the way it does. Which, I mean, it's Tarantino. He knows how to write dialogue.
Yeah. Because sometimes your actor can save your dialogue. If your dialogue is not particularly good, it's just something about that actor that just brings that dialogue to life.
It reminds me, this may not be the best example, but in Attack of the Clones, when... I know, I'm not really helping myself, but in the scene, the infamous CGI pair between Anakin and Padme, but I have a but. So
yeah, everyone does, Tom.
Yes, okay, but the opening dialogue, Anakin is saying, when I got to them, we went into aggressive negotiations. Aggressive negotiations? What's that? Well, negotiations with a lightsaber. Okay. That whole thing was improvised by Hayden Christensen, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so because George apparently didn't like the dialogue he had written for that scene, which is kind of interesting.
Don't hear that often.
Yeah, that's just what I heard. That was don't care about that. Okay. Shut up.
Just shut up.
Okay. Totally on.
Huh?
What was I saying?
George Lucas changing dialogue. Christian
Hayden
Christensen.
Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen improvised dialogue.
Yeah, it
aggressive
makes
negotiations.
you wonder why he didn't do that for the rest of the film, or the rest of the dialogue.
Hey, then you would have had Ghostbusters. Most of that well, they obviously had a through line that they had to adhere to so that everything made sense, but a lot of that was improv.
Yeah.
Well, that was because you had comedic geniuses from SNL on the movie.
Yeah, and Christensen's not really a comedic actor. Even though I like him more than most people do, this is kind of a different topic. Like in Jumper, like he's trying to be that sly comedic character that like Chris Pratt would play, but that's just not Christensen. But we can talk about that on another episode.
Remake with Jumper, Chris Pratt.
That same director, Doug Liman, has a Netflix show.
Really?
Called Jumper, or it's based on Jumper.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, but anyway, we can, that's another episode.
Another story for another day.
Yeah. So, I guess when do you improv?
When do you improv?
Mm-hmm.
Well, like in Ghostbusters, you improv because you know that you have a group of gentlemen who are from SNL. They're comedians. Improv is their bread and butter.
Right.
So you have to get a feeling. Like, you have to really work with your actors.
But,
you have to know when to turn them loose, when to rein them in.
Yeah, but sometimes with with Ghostbusters, it was like an overstuffed Judd Apatow movie. But but the original Ghostbusters is a science fiction based comedy, and that has to be focused,
Yeah, but they were still able to get all that improv in there. That's like I said, there was still that.
Oh yeah, there was improv, but with 2016, it was too much. So again, it was trying to be an overstuffed Judd Apatow movie.
Yeah.
Or a Seth Rogen movie.
Or I'm trying to think of another example, but that'll come back to me later. But yeah, you got to work with your actors, and when you're on set and you have the luxury of time, you improv when you know that your characters can pull their weight and they know how the scene is supposed to go. You let them loose. You take the hand off the leash just for a moment and see what they do.
Yeah, like Scorsese, I think does something like that similar. Whereas like in Goodfellas, like they weren't like always like just doing whatever they wanted, but Scorsese would kind of give them the idea of the scene, like the beats to play out, and then they would kind of let the actors, because they were so engrossed with those characters,
They'd fill in the blanks, fill in the blanks method. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got to go from here to here.
Yeah,
everything else in between is up to you.
Yeah, and they kind of like it's also helped by their entertaining New York accents. Let me tell you about the VCR repair business. People think that this is a dying industry, but I tell you, I don't remember what he said.
Culkin.
Oh, well, I was referring to his Wolf of Wall Street video, but
I know
that's still crazy that he did that.
Yes, it is. But what you got to know is that they got Joe Pesci.
Yeah,
they got Joe Pesci.
Yeah, Joe Pesci. Yeah, and good old De Niro.
You talking to me?
Yeah,
you talking to me?
What? Am I threatening you? You threatening me?
I'm the only one here.
Who's the threat here? John Tron. But,
yes.
Yeah. So, and you're on the boat. He's on the fucking boat.
But it's like,
okay, moving on.
Yeah. Actors. When you're writing a script, unfortunately, you don't have the luxury. Often, you don't have the luxury of knowing who you're going to have casted as a role,
unless you're
Tim Burton
or
With Johnny Depp.
Brad Bird. Because he totally got everybody he wanted for Incredibles. So.
Sam Jackson, he wanted a guy with a cool voice.
Like, yeah. So.
I just now got that pun! God damn it! Oh, fuck. I just got that! Fucking Christ! That was an actual quote from him. He wanted someone with a cool voice. I'm sorry, I'm finding a lot of things funny today, and I swear I don't do pot, but goddamn, I did not get that till now.
Yeah. But not ice work.
Schwarzenegger is jealous right now.
Okay.
But yeah, you often don't have the luxury of knowing who you're going to cast unless you know right off the bat. Unless you have already people who have committed.
You can get them.
Yeah, and they've already committed, etc. And also that gets into the fact of once you get your actors, you might actually change something to tailor make it around. Let's say you got yourself a script, all shined up and all ready to go about, and you're ready to start filming. You go to your first day of filming, and you finally get an idea of how your actors are actually going to be in the set, how they're actually going to be when they're refilming it. And you're like, that makes me wonder. You go back and you actually tailor-make you either add some scenes that you think you can get away with because you now know, this actor can do this. Maybe I can put this in. Or maybe I can change around this scene because I know how this actor plays off this actor and how they're going to play off this other person who comes in later.
Yeah.
It's like... It's intricate. It's a data map of different points of influences that are all funneling into this one thing, your film.
Right.
I mean, this discussion, I'm sorry if I'm going off on a tangent of how this all feeds into the bigger picture, but that's really how filmmaking is. It's a big collaborative effort where scripting is the starting point, but it's one of the points that...
Improvising, directing, we'll go into that on another episode.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to start wrapping this up here. But because we're going on almost 30 minutes.
Scripting.
So scripting.
Like with anything, the best I think. I'm trying. What's a big way to conclude? Okay, scripting. You don't have to write everything down to how a character takes a footstep every time they're walking somewhere.
Yeah.
But you write.
It's just a blueprint.
You write what you need / want. You write for what a scene entails. A high action scene is going to have a lot more detail.
Now, whether or not you can do that high action scene,
that's another story.
Wise, that's another episode. But
now, with character interactions, you can go into a little detail. If you want to make a movie where there's something about a character that the audience doesn't know, but you want it to be there for someone to realize later down the line, and then they look back at your movie and like, this was always the case, and we didn't realize it until later.
Right.
Like if you want to point out how a character is always limping and then has some significance later in the movie, you'll want to write that down.
Right.
For this actor to know he's got to walk with a limp in these scenes. You write what you need and what you want. But you need to know when enough is enough. Because, again, blueprint, not the Bible. Things are going to change. And always be open to change in your script, especially from feedback, when you actually start putting it to film. Because the first day of filming is going to bring about a lot of changes. You're finally going to get to know who your actors are and how they're going to take...
First day of shooting, that's a whole other episode entirely.
That's a discussion there, my friend.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But things are going to change. That's the biggest takeaway. Yeah. But the biggest part, the most two important things about scripting: know what you're writing, have that idea, and get started.
Yep. Okay. So I think that pretty much settles it there.
Welcome, not welcome, everybody. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us this week on the Filmmakers Roundtable. This podcast comes out on SoundCloud and YouTube every Monday. Please leave your feedback in the comments below. Any links to special things that we mentioned during this episode will be in the description below. Follow us at our Twitters, our Facebook group, etc., etc., etc. You want us to take a look at something? Please leave it in the comments below. We'll all see you next time. Keep on filmmaking.